I'm Rob Skinner, and this is the Rob Skinner Podcast. What would you do if your house burned down? What would you do if you didn't have time to go back for even one possession? What would you do if all you had to start over again was your laptop and 2 changes of clothes? Nate and Megan Chatelier can answer those questions and more because on Friday, August 18th, 2023, a wildfire swept through their neighborhood. The flames were 150 feet higher than the tree line, and 240 homes were destroyed. Listen as Nate and Megan share what they went through and how they're rebuilding their lives. All this and more on the Rob Skinner Podcast. Welcome back to the Rob Skinner Podcast. My goal is to inspire you to live a no-regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. If you listen to the Rob Skinner Podcast, I know a few things about you. You're a kingdom dreamer, a person who wants to save souls and make a difference. I bet you're a person who's a giver, a person who encourages others. My question is, who's encouraging you? Who's lifting up your arms? You need a time, place, and environment that's dedicated to building you up, equipping you, and encouraging you. That place and time is at the Climb Conference in Dallas, Texas, this November 30th through December 3rd, 2023. I know, it's so tempting to think, I don't have the money, my church doesn't have the money, I don't have the time, I'm too busy, I've got too much going on in my life. Instead, I want you to think, what could I do if I was around kingdom dreamers for 3 straight days? How could I grow if the people speaking to me really understood my situation and challenges? How could 2024 be different if I went into it fully charged and prepared? That's why you need to register today at robskinner.com if you haven't already. We need each other to fight the good fight. We need to spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Don't cheat yourself. Treat yourself to the most encouraging weekend of 2023. I'll see you in Dallas. Nate and Megan, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us back again.
Thank you.
Although I wish the circumstances were different, but glad to be.
I know it. I know. Isn't that the truth? Well, the last time we talked, Nate, you were like just about to leave the country. You were going on a massive trip, kind of an experimental trip. And Megan, you were going to homeschool the kids. Can you tell me a little bit about what's happened there in your trip to Europe?
Oh, so we, had the privilege, and it was a privilege to go for a month in Europe. We'd saved up a bunch of miles from our credit cards forever, and so we took our 3 kids. At the time, they're around 9, 11, 13. Sometimes I lose track. And it was, I just remember telling someone it was just one of the best months of my life. And it was, sure, we saw amazing things, Europe's a beautiful country. But I think the best part of it was just a celebration. I was with my best friend, my husband, and every day I really enjoyed my children, and we laughed so much that whole trip. And I think, and it really, I was just reflecting on it with a friend and just saying it was a celebration that God somehow has had me still married, because if you know me, that's kind of a miracle. And that, somehow we were blessed with these 3 beings that are not perfect, but perfect for us. And it was magical. It wasn't, luxurious or glamorous, but it was full of outdoor activity and so many memories. And we laughed a lot, and we laughed at each other.
We did.
And it was really special. It was a good season.
Okay. So,
go ahead.
So Nate, you've got multiple businesses going on. For the digital nomads out there, how did you manage that?
So at one of my companies, they're ninjas, my biggest one. I have 38 employees in that. And my rule is you can live anywhere you want to live, but you got to do a couple things. One, you have to work Pacific hours. Two, you have to be a US citizen because there's legal things that get complicated if you're not. And then three, the work has to get done. So this was a chance for me to abide by that myself and prove that it's doable. So I continued to work Pacific hours, which depending on which time zone we were in, we went to many different countries, was 5 p.m. till like about 2 a.m. And honestly, it worked awesome. It was better than we thought. I'm a night owl anyway, so it worked great. Megan likes the mornings, and I don't, and my kids don't. And so, a lot of places in Europe they're not morning cities in a lot of places. And so, for example, in Portugal, Megan loves to run and any athletic activities. And she'd get up in the morning, she'd go for her early morning run or prayer, and the city is just quiet. And meanwhile, our house is quiet. We're all sleeping and mom's gone. And everybody won. It was great for all of us.
You recently faced a catastrophe.
Yeah.
Where were you? And what was the first indication something was happening?
Yeah, so speaking of Nerd Ninjas, we twice, because it's a fully distributed studio, one of the things, I think remote work is phenomenal, but it's not without legit drawbacks. And one of them is you miss the FaceTime, and I think we as humans need FaceTime and water cooler time. It builds trust. It does so many different things. So what I do is twice a year, I fly the whole staff together, and we have a weekend of fun, a big retreat together. And we've done everything from zip lining and escape rooms and private casinos and murder mysteries and whitewater rafting and all kinds of different things. And I have the best party planner ever. Megan does a phenomenal job with that. And so coincidentally, this Friday that this tragedy happened was the first day of this retreat. So we had spent all morning back and forth to the airport, picking up loads and loads of people and bringing them back to my house. And so, I don't know, we've had maybe 30-ish people or something at my home. Yeah, maybe more.
Without cars.
And yeah, most of them did. I do have some local people to Spokane who had some cars and were going to help us to transport people, thankfully. So we were going this weekend up to Silver Mountain Resort. And it's this beautiful resort with an indoor water park and
up in the mountains, just great.
It was awesome. We were going to do this thing called the Hiawatha Bike Trail, which I hope people get to do at some point in their life. It's phenomenal. And so anyway, we had some people there with cars, but most of these people, we picked them up from the airport. They didn't have cars. We've been shuttling them all morning. And then it was kind of eerie. We get on all of our phones, start getting that emergency alert buzz thing. And it says, evacuate your house now, literally in all capitals. And it says, this may be your only warning. And that day, earlier that same morning, a fire started. I think the details are still a little muddy, but it sounds like it was on a farmer's land nearby while they were out working.
But still a ways from us, and it was like, oh, okay, there's a fire, not worried about it, because it's common this time of year.
But winds were peaking at 40 miles an hour, and it spread extremely fast. You would say what that guy said?
Yeah. So, these are pieces that we learn later on, but I think it helps fill in the gaps for why it was such a quick evacuation, which is uncommon. Usually get warnings, you can get stuff and you can go, right? But one of the firefighters who was on this fire, who'd been doing it for decades, said he had never fought a fire that moved this rapidly and this unexpectedly. And they went in, with their trucks and their crews, and they had 4 points of exit, always important, for their safety. And then in a matter of minutes, they were down to 1, and they just had to get out. And there was a chief fire marshal, I'm probably using the wrong terms, and he'd been fighting fires for 35 years. And he said, it was so severe, I couldn't even save my own house on this one. So it was the perfect storm for just rapid destruction and massive destruction too.
And then in addition to that, I've got a house full of people. And so when we get that evacuation, everybody looks at me, my house, what are we going to do? Megan I had driven to the airport. We have an 8-seater vehicle, and I had left her at the airport, and we were getting another 8-seater vehicle to rent to help take care of everybody. So I just left her at the airport and then took a full entire load of people back to our house. And then Megan was going to take a few more people from the airport and come back, and we needed that vehicle for seats. And then we get this. And so I remember telling everybody in the house, here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to panic. I'm going to assign people to cars. We're going to get in cars. When your car is full, you're going to leave and we're going to go. And we started just assigning people, and cars started leaving. And we're down to the last group of people. And this, now you can just see, I mean, the sky's intense. It's black, the flames, the winds are high. And I know we got to go. And I remember calling Megan and saying, you are speeding home. I don't care about any traffic tickets or anything else. You're rushing here. But unfortunately, she's driving into the chaos and the fire and everything else. And I had everybody up at the top of the driveway. And so I have a car with 8 people that need to get in, and Megan's got another 8. And she comes in, and poor Megan wanted to go in the house and grab things, you know, her photo books and some memories and some irreplaceable things. And I told her, you cannot. We're getting people and we're going. And that's what happened. And it's very sad that we didn't get to grab things. You know, we lost like everything. Our house is gone. Our stuff, everything is gone. But all of the people are safe. Yeah. And we had a neighbor who was still in their driveway. And I told him as we were leaving, his name's Rodney, and I'm yelling, Rodney, you have to leave right now. And we drive away. And he calls me 10 minutes later and he said, Nate, I tried leaving. The fire is across the road. It's the only exit. I'm trapped. I can't get out.
Oh my gosh.
I was so grateful for Nate's assertiveness, you know, God working. I don't know the full details, right? But just the effectiveness of not grabbing anything, although it's so hard because there are these photo books and so many things, or even the monetary things like such as money or all of our electronics. But I just, as I was, you know, people just hopped in and we took off. And I remember driving and going as fast as I could because I could see the fire that was right at the edge of the road, and just pushing as hard as I could on that gas pedal to get through. And it was so scary. I still feel like the increased heart rate as I like describe the situation, because I've never been in anything like that. And so I'm just grateful to God that all of our guests who were remarkable, and, you know, our dear best friends, the Baldwins, who are there, like helping immensely, you know, so I'm just so grateful we all made it out. So,
oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. So what about your kids? Where were your kids?
Okay. I'm so glad you asked. So, you know, there's definitely beauty from ashes in this story. And this is one of the most amazing things. And I don't know how God works. He's far too wise for me. So this is my small speculation. And so ages ago, I had contacted my mom to fly up, and she was supposed to be alone with our 3 kids, dependent kids, at home, and then with no car, because we needed all of our cars. And so the morning of me picking her up, so it would have been Wednesday, the fire happened Friday, I was like, oh, I better just recheck these plane tickets. And because of my random mistake, which I've never done in my life, and I give the credit to God, I had booked the wrong date. So if that had happened, she would have been alone in her house, and to repeat, no car, 3 young kids, and we would have left earlier. So I can't even let my mind go there. Like, they probably made it somehow, sure, right? But how traumatic would that have been? And for the kids to see, like, it was really scary. And so because of this, a dear friend of mine, you know, Alicia and Tassie, came and grabbed my kids like earlier that morning before any concern. My kids were off on a vacation in Montana, just, you know, protected and taken care of and loved. And I'm so just in awe that God would arrange that. So
wow,
it's just incredible.
So your mom was scheduled to come and babysit while you guys were away at this retreat site up in the mountains. But somehow or other, you made a booking mistake. And so she couldn't come. God. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's incredible.
Okay. Tell me what's going through your mind as all this is happening and you see this wall of flames. Are there thoughts? What's happening inside?
Yeah, the flames ended up, I don't know, this is the picture of our house, but the flames they rose to 150 feet above the tree line. So it was intense. And we know it melted aluminum and other stuff, this whole beam and everything. So we know it got to at least 1200 degrees. Like, our neighbors had fire safes that are just gone. There's nothing left. And
cars were melted.
Yeah, completely gone. I mean, there's nothing left of our house and possessions at all. And of course we didn't know this yet, right, that this was going to be the case, but it was clearly severe. And I remember thinking, we've got all of the people. That was so important to me at the beginning. And if I'm honest with myself, there is an internal battle still. And even like if I hate the what ifs, right? But it's hard. We didn't sleep well. We're still not totally sleeping well, but for many nights in the beginning, we slept really poorly. And I'm just playing back everything in my head. And, I think if we didn't have this retreat, we didn't have all these people, like we could have saved something, from our house, but because of all this, we saved nothing. And in hindsight, it was the right call, to focus on the people and forget the possessions. And so really, that's what I was thinking in the moment when it happened. Now I've had lots of thoughts since then, but in the moment I thought, I need to get the people and get the people out of there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And mine fluctuated depending on the moment. I felt very emotionally labile. And, to one degree, I don't know of anyone whose house has completely been destroyed by fire directly, right? I'm like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
This doesn't happen.
It just doesn't happen.
No. And to, maybe stated, maybe not, we live 50 feet from a lake, right? From our back door. And the planes are constantly taking water throughout the summer from our lake to put out fires. So part of me is like, it's not going to burn our house. We're right on a lake. They can use that. Now, little did I know the winds were so bad and the fire was so hot that they couldn't even use that strategy, so, and then another part of me too is like, God, to the best of my self-reflection, or assessment, I guess, we use our house constantly because we love it, not because we're selfless people necessarily, but it's rare that there's a day that goes by without, extra people at our dinner table or people staying in all of our guest rooms. And we really built this house. Like I said, it's very clean conscious to create community, and to just love people. And I feel like we really did that, hospitality is just something I love. And so I just remember thinking like, God, you wouldn't burn our house down, because I do feel like it's an extension of a church building, if I may use that, or just we love our friends from church, not from church. So I think I was just battling that, like, you wouldn't do that, God. But as I'm seeing the flames, I'm like, well, you might. And so
I hate to laugh. It's just like, oh my gosh.
Hey, we laugh. We laugh.
And many people at church, even since it has happened, have messaged us and said that was the church's second home, that was destroyed. And so there's still is a lot of questions and confusion. I can get more into that later if you'd like, but there was a lot of, why didn't you choose to spare our house, right? I don't think God caused this, but I absolutely believe God could have chosen to spare our house if he wanted to. And why didn't he? And I'm happy to explore that more later, but that's, I think, what we were thinking in the beginning.
Wow. Okay. So the house completely wiped out. I saw a picture. There's the chimney's still there.
I know it's not there.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll show you a picture. I know people are listening, but it is, a pile of ashes, and there's no exaggeration.
Oh my gosh.
This is 4,000 square feet plus, and you can see it's just a pile of ashes.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately. So
yeah. So that made it pretty clear cut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Total destruction.
So the structure is completely destroyed. What can you share some of the things that you lost on the inside?
I mean, everything.
Things of value. Maybe that would be, what I miss the most is, when kids are little, they make you Mother's Day gifts or different things like that. And I dearly miss that. And we weren't ones to collect things. The one exception is for experiences, like when we went to Europe, every country we went to or significant city, we would pick out a Christmas ornament, and then we write on the back the memory. And so each Christmas, as we pull out these ornaments, which I have been collecting since birth, courtesy of my mom, of course, and for my kids, and then we were planning on giving those to my kids once they left the house, and so that's something I'll miss. And there will be different times of grieving. And when Christmas comes, I will grieve that, because I loved each ornament. A kid would pull one out and say, oh, this is when we went cross country skiing and then went hot tubbing. And so that, things like that, that's hard. So.
Yeah, we lost, I mean, my office was destroyed, and everything that's in there, and that's my livelihood, is with that. And thankfully, I had my laptop in my backpack, so that was spared. But I actually have multiple computers. It's what I do for work, and so that was all gone, all the monitors and everything. And then upstairs, I'm a board game designer as well, and so we built in this house a closet for board games, and it was a walk-in board game closet. And I mean, I've been collecting those for a very, very, very long time, and going to as many conventions as I do for board games. What happens quite often is you meet other creators, and I like their game, and we'll end up doing a game swap and sign each other's boxes.
Oh.
And so I had all these signed boxes by other creators, including Klaus Teuber. He's the creator of Catan. And I had worked with him and his two sons. Actually, I'd spent multiple times in Germany, and he had signed a box for me, and it meant a lot to me. That particular game brought me into this era of gaming, and he was an amazing man. And he's passed away maybe 6 months ago-ish or so, and
gosh.
That's irreplaceable. And that meant a lot to me personally. I know it's weird, but it did. And that's gone. And then there was just possessions that are replaceable but still sting, like. We had backup ironically, our emergency cash is burned to the ground in the emergency,
Live and learn, baby.
Yeah, all of our clothes, everything is just gone.
I know. I stepped out to get some fresh air that night, and we're up in the mountains and the weather was great, so I didn't pack a jacket, but I remember going outside and being like, oh, it's a little chilly. And then I remember thinking, I don't own a jacket anymore. It was just sobering, we're just like, oh, I need to trim my fingernails. I don't own a pair of fingernail clippers. So it's a very humbling position.
Wow.
That's for sure.
Oh my gosh. It's hard to imagine. It's just hard to imagine. You came back after the fire the next day or a couple days.
So we had this retreat booked for 2 nights, 3 days. And so the plan, what I do for these retreats that we have twice a year, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then on the summer retreat, the reason we built on a lake, we truly love, like genuinely love to give back of all of that. And so we, in many, many ways, we have people over a lot, and I own a boat. I have one of my businesses, a Silver Lake School of Wake I guess. And so we have people out there. I teach them how to wakeboard and wake surf. And so anyway, what I did was I told my staff, if you would like to optionally stay one more night, we're closing the studio on Monday. You can stay at my home Sunday night. And then Sunday will just be a casual day. Anybody wants to play in the water, I'll teach you how to wakeboard and wake surf, and we'll just hang out on the lake with no real agenda. And how many people did that?
In total, there's, oh gosh, I don't know. There was 48 people at this retreat, adults. I think we ended up having 20 something people
Sounds
stay.
right. That Sunday night. So now we have no more house, right? And so while we're up at Silver Mountain, we're trying to think, like, on top of everything else, like, we have to take care of people, for this whole weekend. This is all of our plans and everything else. We have to be hospitable, amidst this devastation. And so Megan, she's amazing, and she pushed through, and she booked hotel rooms for everybody else and got that all figured out for Sunday night. And Ryan and Troy Baldwin, they're disciples, very, very dear friends of ours, and he's also an employee of mine. And he said, I'm going to have everybody over to my house all day Sunday. We'll play games. Don't worry about it. We'll just take care of it. And they get a lot of credit for giving us relief that we really needed on Sunday. And then we just started becoming vagabonds at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. So hold on a second. You guys went ahead with the retreat?
Yeah, we did. I mean, we got 48 people here. They've flown from all over. We need to do this. So that Friday night when we're up at the retreat, it was very hard emotionally, frankly. And I remember Megan and I both, it was like 3 a.m. or something. And Megan's like, you awake? Yep. You awake? Yep. And we just talked through the night because neither of us could sleep. And we just both decided tomorrow, we have this 13-mile bike ride. We've got all this different stuff going on. Let's try to compartmentalize and let's be giving, and let's have a great retreat. And then on Sunday, we'll get back to reality. And I can't say we were flawless at all at compartmentalizing. No. But we went through with it all, and we rode the bike all the way down this mountain. And then we get to Megan processes things through physical activity. So after we arrive at the bottom of the mountain, Megan says there's a bus that takes you back up for everybody, and she says, I'm gonna ride back up.
Oh my gosh.
Mountain. And she just takes off, so that I'm like chasing her, trying to catch her. She's way better biking than I am. And anyway, we made it up to the top, and I thought I might have died the whole time, and she was like, oh, this is pretty easy. So but we made it.
It is cool that God is set up. We love the mountains, and physical activity, and just that, he had, either way, circumstances, we happen to be mountains, happen to have rented bikes. So, and it just helped to be able to process that. And and everyone there was so kind and so graceful. So really a lot of credit goes to our guests. They were remarkable and could not have been more supportive and more wonderful at that time. So credit goes to them.
Unbelievable. That's okay. How did you enlist your faith in God in order to face this disaster?
So there's been a number of times in my life where I feel like I have been through some level of a tragedy or severe situation. And I won't dive too much into this, but from a childhood when my mom attempted suicide and ended up in a mental institute for a while, and my parents divorcing, and my new stepmom telling me, I don't want you to live in my roof anymore, to me losing, this is lesser, but getting laid off from my first job that I thought was a big deal at the time. And when I look back, every single time the scripture holds true that God works out all things for the good of those that love him. And I just believe, like, I deeply believe that, deeply. And that doesn't mean that I understand it. And I've had a lot of honest prayers with God, and I still don't understand, why this happened. And I feel like Megan, with a very clean conscience, we gave and gave and gave. We built our dream home. We got to live in it for 1 year. And we built it to give, was like the reason we built that house. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why God would do this. I still don't. But I can say that I genuinely believe God has a plan. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he was pushing us out of the nest and saying, we can talk about maybe what we're doing next. That might have been it. One person said, I was talking to one other person who was a Christian, and he said, maybe the reason God didn't choose to spare your house is God says he doesn't give us more than we can handle. Mm-hmm. And he knows that you two are capable of handling this and rising from the ashes. And maybe we need to be able to counsel other people in the midst of tragedy. And I don't know the answer yet. I believe God will show us eventually what that is.
Capable. We'll see.
How about you, Megan?
I don't know if this is the right time to talk about the beauty. I know I keep saying beauty from ashes, Isaiah 61 to, praise instead of despair. And it's a process, it's definitely the processing grief for sure, stages. And so, but the good things are the kindness that we have just been blown away by. Yes. I mean, unreal, there's too many people, to list the prayers, my blood family's just been so generous. We're staying with them right now, and just so many good things. And I think, though, what it's taught me spiritually, we hear about Paul, who's just this incredible guy who, he's here and I'm so low, I can't even put my hand that low. And, he talks about being content. And even before I was born, like my mom had a whole closet of clothes for me, and then to go to owning 2 changes of clothes. And I just think he talks about being content in all situations, right, in times of need and want. And I think this has been a really good experience for me to be content. And, I think perspective is a blessing and a curse, like perspective of I'd burn my house down in a heartbeat instead of having a kid go through cancer, but it's also a curse because it's still a process. But I just think I'm so grateful that God is teaching me through this. And even that I feel like he's prepared us. Even we mentioned Europe with you. And as odd as this is, we kept saying, when we are together, we are home. And I really felt that way. We were able to reunite with our kids Sunday night, which was wonderful, right? We could entertain our amazing guests and process a little before we saw them. And I just remember just this deep exhalation of, okay, we're good. We got this, and I think that was helpful because one of the hardest times, and still hard for me to talk about without crying, was when I was processing this and thinking, oh, I'm going to get my babies. I know they're 9, 11, and 13, but they're always my babies. And I'm like, oh, I don't have a home to take them to. Yeah. Where do I take them? And so that's hard, but it's good. So there is good, but it's been hard.
It was what she said, though. I just want to emphasize, when we were in Europe, we literally said, we have discovered that wherever our family is, that's home. Like, we said that literal phrase, and then this happened. And so I don't know if God was preparing, like, I'm going to hold you to that statement or what. I know he has a sense of humor at times, but we're living that. We're doing that.
You know, in I'm sure you've thought this through, but in one way, you've been handed an opportunity to literally start from scratch. Like, you know, like what you mentioned about Paul, he said, but if we have food and clothing, we'll be content with that. Yeah. How, moving forward, how are you going to rebuild your life and your home?
It's a good question. We're still figuring it out, frankly. I do think of, you know, in Matthew 6, right, when it's talking about, see how the grass of the field is and the birds, and you know, God takes care of them and everything else. And the interesting thing about that verse, because it says, you know, do not store up for yourselves treasure on earth. And the funny thing is, did we have treasures on earth is a definite yes. You know, we did have treasures on earth. But I feel like at the end of that, you know, it says, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, for where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I think, maybe I'm tricking myself, I don't think that my treasures were my home or where my heart was. I think we had treasures on earth to give to others, and I feel like our actions supported that. So the hard thing is, you know, I think that scripture, what is it? He who has money should use it to make friends, or whatever.
Right, Luke 16.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have a lot to offer, so we had to use whatever we had to make friends.
That's true. But I feel like I felt like that was a role, you know, all the different parts of the body, right, are for different purposes. And I felt like that was a role of ours. We could be very generous, and we loved to be we loved hospitality. And I think most people, when we shared how frequently we had hospitality, they would think we're out of our minds, which we are. But we were energized by it. And I felt like God had given us both. Like, if one of us liked it, one of us didn't, it wouldn't work, right? But we both just loved hospitality. So I think as we rebuild, that's one of the things that I'm wrestling with is, God, I thought that was a role of mine. You know, I thought that was a gift, was hospitality. And maybe I was mistaken. Maybe my heart was attached to treasures. I don't think so, but I'm not sure what he's trying to do with that. So over the next at least 9 months, we try to figure this out. You want to share? Why don't you share?
Yeah, you know, to piggyback, and I'll answer that question. I think there's a part of us, or a lot of us, always wants like this adventure, right? And you know, Bible talks about throw off all that hinders you. And like, it would have been stupid for us to just like burn our house down before, right? Like, very DSM-5 classification for sure. But there is something really freeing about that. Like, there's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of work. Like, we need socks and underwear. Like, there's some for a family of 5, you know, but this is exciting. And there is a part of me that just craved this, I think. And so even though I'm mourning former life, you know, this is an opportunity we could not have chosen ourselves. You know, I would have never chosen to get rid of all that stuff, but God maybe gave us a gift, or maybe not. Maybe we're just making it into a gift, lemonade out of lemons. So yeah, for the next 9 months, our home base is definitely Spokane. That's where people that we love live. You know, we just are so grateful for that city and so many things. But we are going to explore, you know, so we are still working out the finite details, but likely it will include Europe. We're looking at some different family mission trips, you know, some different Costa Rica. You know, we as a family, a part of our fabric is outdoor recreation. And so we are excited to integrate more of that and do it together. I've always heard of people when they're empty nesters, they do these great adventures. And I always thought, I just like to do those with my kids. So our kids are doing remote learning. We'll see how that goes. Technically start today. And we don't, like we keep saying, we don't know where this road will take us, but we're going there together.
Wow.
So our home base will be Spokane, but 9 months, we're going to do a little exploring.
So on that journey, two things, like we're going to, for example, part of the homeschool or virtual learning, we'll go to, for example, might go to DC, and then we'll incorporate that into the kids' education and then visit the church there. And I think that's one of the things I want my kids to see, and I want to see too, and feel like the kingdom is not Spokane. It's much bigger than that. And I think there's unique perspectives. We've been going, we went last Sunday to the church here in Boise and got to experience all of that. And then we coincidentally, air quotes, Sean Wooten was here the week before this happened to talk about Revive. And so he and I have been corresponding back and forth. We have a Zoom call for next week to talk about maybe we go join Revive for a month. And just see what happens and let our kids experience that. And we talked about maybe we do a family trip with Hope, and we go do that for a while. And so I can't pretend we know yet. There's a lot. We're dealing with insurance madness, which is frustrating, but we're going to try to make the most out of this. The fact that we're homeless and possessionless, there's a kind of a gift in that, and we can do some unique things.
That's right.
Yeah. We joked, Sean Wooten, just matter of factly, was not boasting or anything, just all of his possessions fit into a little suit, travel on suitcase. And I remember shortly after this happened, for whatever reason, cynical or not, I don't know, but thinking, family of 5 and all of our possessions fit into a travel on suitcase now. Good times. But yeah, we're in big.
That's right. You can teach him a lesson or two.
Never.
Okay, so now I know that you guys, you talked a little bit about Portugal. You really like Portugal in your visit. I don't know how strong the church is there, what's going on, status or anything. How about a mission team to Portugal? What do you think about that?
So it's funny you said that. We truly talked about, we would love to be a part of a mission team to Portugal. And I mentioned that to Sean, and his response was, love that plan. Come join me for a year on Revive, get trained up, and then let's send the mission team together, was his response. Very Sean response. We haven't talked about that. Maybe. I love Portugal. Megan's eyes are getting excited right now. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot, right? Who knows what the future holds? We fell in love, outside of when I'm in the mountains. I was telling Nate, when I was in Portugal, I just felt like I was home, for whatever reason, it's unpolished and beautiful city. So we don't know, and we will see where this road takes us.
That's right. There's so many.
In 9 months. We'll see.
It's such an interesting thing because literally you can go any direction in so many different ways. The world is wide open for you. So it's just kind of exciting when you think about that. Pam and I, for her birthday, I took her to Portugal, and it was awesome. We went there for 2 weeks and put like 1,200 miles on a car and went to tons of cities, and we just loved it. So I definitely share your affinity for Portugal. It's a wonderful place. What's changed for you guys after going through this traumatic with a capital T, genuinely traumatic, not someone looked at you wrong in the fellowship, but we're talking about a traumatic experience. What's going to be different for you guys going forward? What's changed?
We are evaluating our decisions more closely. If I'm allowed, and I don't mean this negatively, I think we fit a really nice status quo American family model before this. Our kids were involved in their individual activities, right? Going to school, all these are good things. I worked at the hospital, Nate ran his companies, we had a nice house, we had a cat, right? We went to church on Sunday, all good things. These are not bad things. But I think we've realized that we want to rethink. Is that what we want to return to? There is a busyness that comes with that. And I want to be careful, again, to state, I'm not viewing these as negative. I'm just viewing these as, is this the right return, the right pathway for us going forward? And we don't know, but even down to simple, like when I went to buy a coat, I'm like, I had a lot of coats before. I really like coats, apparently. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want to buy a lot of coats. I want a good one, still on clearance. But so it's just rethinking things, because we have nothing in materials, but we have so much wealth in terms of friends. Yeah. So we are really considering relationships are the most important.
Yeah.
So how do we make those a central part of our life? We thought it was buy a house to involve people in. Maybe it's not. We don't know. We really don't know.
We don't know. I think I have the heart of an evangelist. I love to help people to grow spiritually. I think that energizes me more than anything else in my spiritual walk with God. I love watching people grow spiritually. And recently in Spokane, there was I was at a friend's house. They had this big gathering of people, and a bunch of people we didn't know most people there, but we joined. And the neighbor that lives there grabbed me and said, hey, I got this. They know about my faith and everything else. They don't go to our church or anything, but they said, I got somebody I want you to meet. I think they need to meet you. And I'm saying, okay. And so we go and they introduced me to this guy named Bobby. And Bobby he's lived a hard life. He's gone through some intense stuff by choices that he has made. And he's at a crossroads in his life where he says, I want to be someone different and I want to live a different way. And I don't know what that means. And I just met this guy. And by the end of the night, like we were super deep with each other. And so I give him this challenge. He's well built physically and he goes to the gym. He's a fighter. He's done a lot of boxing and things like that. And so he knows about physical trainers. And I said, Bobby, I want to be your spiritual trainer. And a physical trainer, if you meet with them once a month and you're kind of half-hearted about it, nothing happens. And I want to have some intense spiritual training with you. And for 3 months, I want you to read your Bible every day, to meet with me every week, to come to church every week. And we're going to get you in spiritual shape. And at the end of this 3 months, you will know for the rest of your life, is this the fix to the problems I've been having or not? And if it's not, fine. You tried it, you gave it your all, great. But let me try and train you spiritually for 3 months. And he came to one service Sunday, and that next Friday, my house burned to the ground. And I look at things like that and I just feel like, why, God? Why did that happen? And so I think one of the things I'm trying to figure out as we move forward is, how do I still build with people? And I'm a little afraid to hop around too much that I can't get deep enough with people to really change their life. And I believe I can plant seeds without a doubt. And maybe somebody else needs to grow and water and fine. Maybe that's the path. But my heart yearns to help. I want to do all of the steps, and help someone grow. And maybe God does. I don't know. I don't know yet, Rob. Honestly, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. For those who don't know us, we've been in Spokane for 21 years. And I definitely have always had wanderlust, but we just knew the value of making roots and getting involved in people's lives. So this has kind of thrown us for a loop.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading a book and it talked about how, there's the dark underbelly of the digital nomad's lifestyle. It's glamorous. The appearance is really exciting. Travel, go different places, work from your laptop. But the unspoken side is the shallowness of relationships. You're not really connecting. And there's even people in the church that they travel a lot. A lot. They're here maybe 50% of the time. At the same time, they're expressing a desire, hey, I want to make disciples. And I had to sit down and talk with them and say, listen, if you want to make disciples, you've got to be able to stay long enough in one spot to at least help a person from interest phase to getting baptized and then and beyond. So that's a real challenge. I can imagine for you guys to think through, okay, where are we going to go from here? Because certainly you could travel the world, but there's a cost for that. So that's interesting. You're thinking about that. Okay, I'm sure I've got a few more questions for you. Just, can you help me with the details, like the aftermath? Like, what's the appraised value? How are they going to replace the house? Can you talk a little bit about just the nuts and bolts of the mess you're left with in the wake of your house burning to the ground?
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
So, okay, let's hear. So let's go with probably the main focus is that we are blessed that we live in a developed country where we have insurance. Now, unfortunately, we are substantially uninsured.
Underinsured.
Underinsured. That doesn't mean that we don't still have enough money to build a nice house. Nothing like the house that we have, right? So I think that's important to recognize. We do have that resource, right? It's still like a grieving process, that's a big hit. And
especially, actually, if I can interject,
please.
So we bought this house actually because of the proximity to the water, and I love water. It's just something to my soul. I'm a better disciple and husband and father. I'm better when I'm near the water. I've learned this about myself. And when we bought the house, we were not planning on doing all that we ended up doing. We thought maybe this was an investment property. We'll Airbnb it out. And then Megan said, how are we going to Airbnb this if you won't ever leave this place? And I said, well, I'm not leaving this place. I'm a better disciple. So we did a big remodel on the house as a result. And we decided to set up home here. And unfortunately, when this remodel happened, Megan did what she should have. She called insurance to try to like up it to the new value. Yeah. And they said, we will not insure you for that much. And in hindsight, what we probably should have done is said, well, then we'll just go with a different insurance company. But who would have thought that in the moment, right? And so to Megan's credit, she said, well, what's the most we can get? And we got that, but we're still severely underinsured. So even if we rebuild with all that we're getting, it won't be the same. And, you know, we're in a world now where instead of the 2.25 interest rate that we had, you know, it's quite high now. And so that also affects our decisions. What are we going to do? I don't know.
So we are really in the thick. We don't have many answers. We still don't have our rent value for how much we're allocated for a month. And I guess it's 3 weeks tomorrow. So I only say that, I mean, we're fine, right? We are so blessed by the generosity of my family and our friends.
Yeah.
I only say that just to say, we've realized this is going to be a very slow process and involve a lot of paperwork. And I hate adulting. So this is going to be a challenge. So yeah, that's what we're working on.
Like we have to itemize all the things that are in our house, which, you know, we didn't have. If anybody's listening to this, go take a video of your whole house and collect everything. Yeah. I wish we had a recent thing of that. We did not. And we didn't have a fire safe either, but our neighbors didn't burn to the ground. So maybe that doesn't matter. Anyway, we have to like try to meditate, like think through each room and picture all the things that were there. And then we have to write all this down, and they want every item that you have, the value of that item, the years, how old is that item, like down to like a toothbrush, you know, they want like everything. And so I spent 3 hours. I have started a spreadsheet. I spent 3 hours on it, and I've not even made a tiny dent into what we have to do. So part of me is like a little bitter at God, if I'm totally honest. Like, this is a waste of my life, God. Like I don't want to spend my time on possessions. You know, I want to spend my time on people and more important things. And I don't know. I hate this process of insurance, to be honest. I don't know what else to say. I haven't figured out yet the solution to that.
So we're blessed to have insurance. We're cursed to have insurance too.
Yeah, that's right.
What was the square footage of the home?
Just over 6,000. We had a 4,100 square foot house. Then we had built a guest house where we actually had this remarkable guest stay there.
Yeah,
you ever heard of an Ann and Felipe?
Ann Skinner lived there.
So that was
Morris, I guess.
About 2,300 square feet. So yeah.
Wow.
And even with that, like that's a lot of square footage. You know, I understand that. But we truly were like, bring people in all the time, sure. Like your daughter. And so that was confusing to me too. Like we gave it back. Why? I don't know. I don't understand.
Yeah. Little details.
But the boat was saved.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's talk about this really quick. So if you're wondering, who does God love more, Nate or Megan? It was definitely decided by the fire, because the boat still drives and Megan's house is destroyed. So that became evident. So mad when I saw that.
She was mad when she saw that. How come you can keep your boat and I don't get to keep my house? The boat was out on the dock, and so it has the cover on it. It looks like, you know, molten holes all over. It looks like it was in a war zone, and all the upholstery has holes everywhere on it. But mechanically, it actually, ironically, seems fine.
Oh, now we know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, how can people help or encourage or support you during this time?
I don't know.
I mean, that's the hard thing. Is I feel like right now our basic needs are met. Thankfully, and so many people without asking sent care packages and gifts. In fact, I remember right after Megan was talking about, like, I think there were maybe even tears involved. Like, I don't have fingernail clippers anymore. And then we received a gift and there's fingernail clippers in there. You know?
That's pretty cool.
And so that was really cool. So our basic needs are definitely met. I think now is just the long, arduous journey of rebuilding and figuring out, God, what do you want from us? And one of my fears, what I really would ask people for is prayers. Genuinely, because I don't want to misstep here. And I think in the Bible, you see so many times where people were waiting on God, they got impatient waiting on God, and they took it into their own hands to do something else, and it went poorly for them. And you see that repetitively in the Bible. I don't want to be one of those stories.
Right.
And so we're trying to figure out, how do we be patient as we need to, but not idle. And I'm not good at being idle. I want to do things. And that's hard, I think, for a type A person to be patient on God. And it's not because I'm faithless. I want to know God's answer. But when do I move and when do I stay, God? And it's not clear to me what he wants. So I would love people's prayers.
Okay.
Yeah, to emphasize that. And, if possible, to pray for our children. This has been harder than I expected for our children. And one in particular, I won't name her, out of respect for her, but it's hard. They have been uprooted. They have lost their comforts, whether it's a stuffed panda or a trophy, and their cat, so this has been challenging. So I do, and also I know Nate and we both struggle with the same thing, and we like to achieve and get things done, and we can't really do that. So I just pray to be able to be present and not think, okay, once I have my house back, or I have a house, then I can start living my life, because I think that'll be a battle I will fight. So internally. So that's all.
Yeah, that whole, do not worry about tomorrow verse is my least favorite verse in the Bible.
Okay, so what was the date that it burned down?
August 18th, about 8 or 9 p.m. or 7 p.m. I don't know, actually, sometime that night.
August 18th, 19th?
August 18th.
Friday the 18th. Yeah, we got the evacuation notice around 3:30 or so, and by around 8 or so, the house was gone.
So it must have been sooner than that. We don't really know because none of us were there, but
yeah,
it was shortly after that. It's pretty crazy.
So, okay. And then since that time, so that's, I guess, like you said, 3 weeks, you just have been living different places, living with people, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I feel, one thing I will say is, going through this process, the news cycle wants you to lose all hope in humanity, frankly. And I think they've got it wrong. And I really feel like, there's so much good out there in the world, and it may be hidden amidst the news cycle, but there's phenomenal good. And the outpouring of people who have said, you can live with us, people don't even know us, are like, hey, come live with me, you have a place to live here, and all. I mean, it has been incredible to hear that. People literally some people have been fighting over, when we come into Spokane to visit, like, who the Chatelliers are going to stay with. And I feel very, very grateful for that. At the same time, we're a lot. The Chatellier family is a lot. We're a family of 5, and we're not a quiet family of 5. And I need, I have to keep working during all of this. And so I need a more private place. Like, I'm doing annual reviews today and doing another one tomorrow and stuff. And I need to be private when I'm doing these different things. So I need some form of an office space. So we're kind of a lot, frankly. And we've stayed at a lot of different people's houses. We go back to Spokane. We still have here. We've mostly set up with Megan's brother in Eagle, Idaho. He is very blessed, he's very well off financially, I should say. And so he has lots of room for us in his home, and I'm very grateful for that.
He's been amazing, so generous.
Absolutely. It does. On the one hand, Megan's mom lives here as well, actually. And so it's nice that we can all get time with her family.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's not as normal for us. And so it's nice that this moment of time, we get more than we normally do. And our kids get time with their cousins and their grandparents and everything else. But at the same time, I miss my friends, and our kids miss their friends. And that's in Spokane. And so we're trying to navigate that as well.
Right. What have you learned from this that could benefit those listening?
Yeah. I remember thinking about something along those lines, and it's so simple and probably not helpful at all, but I do think invest in relationships, because at the end of the day, that's really what matters. And I'm not good at that, but I know it's important, so I try. So, and we put our schedule around people over things and really work at that. I still have a long ways to go, and actually sharing with the kids, I'm really trying to work at being better at connecting, the conversation, and I've got a lot of growth. So yeah, value relationships are so important, because when everything else is gone, that's what's kind of left.
I would add, stay open. And I mean, open with God for sure, open with people, and open with yourself. And here's what I mean by that. We had the maybe this was a week ago. I think we had a family dinner together. It was just our family, and I just asked everybody, all of us, how are you processing this? And any and everything is okay that you've been feeling along this way. And I shared for myself. I said, I've gone through the stages of grief are very accurate. And so it was definitely shock at first. And then I felt intense grief going back to the property. And it looks like Mordor there. I mean, it's insane. There was 240 homes lost, and it's just black everywhere. And you can't breathe right. And I mean, it's crazy. It feels like Lord of the Rings. And I just wept and wept, and it felt intense grief and confusion. And then I felt, frankly, a lot of anger at God. And I felt like I wanted our kids to feel like that's okay. And you can tell God that. And I have told God that. And I wanted them to hear their father say that, and that they could feel safe to feel whatever they're feeling at the time. And so then I think after that, I had 2 days where I felt numb. I felt nothing whatsoever, zero emotions. And those were actually the scariest days for me. And I've never been in that before, ever in my life. And it scared me, actually. And to the point, I texted a few, Chris Schwarzmer and another dear brother, and I had to be open with them and say, please pray for me, because this is not a place I want to remain in at all. And they both immediately reached out, and called and talked. It was very cathartic and healthy, I think, for me to have that conversations with them. But just stay open. And Megan and I go on daily prayer walks together. We're fortunate there's a trail right by us, and that has helped us to process and stay grounded a lot. But don't try and pretend you're not angry or hurt or upset or confused or whatever. Talk about it, process it, get through it.
Right. Wow. Nate and Megan, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. And again, so sorry for what you've gone through, but thank you so much for sharing it with me, with our listeners. And we're definitely going to be praying for you. You've always got a home in Tucson. If you, you've got a place to stay.
We might visit.
We got a suitcase. We'll travel.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Here's how you can help support the program. First of all, hit the subscribe button and let your friends know about it. Secondly, read and review one of my books, either How to Plant and Grow a Church or Courage, How to Make This Life Count. You can find both of them on Amazon.com, or you can go to robskinner.com, where I've got the links there. Because my goal is to inspire you to make this life count, live a no-regrets life, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Have a great day, and make this life count.